Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and in this video I'm going to tell you about carb backloading, the only dieting technique that can allow you to eat near unlimited amounts of junk food and still gain muscle and burn fat at the same time. Okay, so this is going to be a very dense video, and for some of you, you've been waiting for this video for a while. Perhaps you came to this video because it's one of the most important videos on my page. For those of you who don't know, I've been doing the ketogenic diet for a little over 7 years now. I've been doing bodybuilding and a lot of other fitness dieting techniques for even longer than that, but keto dieting and all the associated carb manipulation techniques are some of the most powerful methods for personal fitness and health that nobody really exploits, or if they do on YouTube, they generally don't have as much experience with it. I'm one of the people who has a lot of experience with this personally and professionally. So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how to use carb backloading and all the other conditions and tweaks and hacks that apply to it so that you can, eat better junk food and also get the same results. So, what is carb backloading? Carb backloading is technically a subcategory of targeted ketogenic diets, which mean incorporating carbohydrates from a ketogenic state. So what does carb backloading actually look like? Well, you're in a keto state, so a low carb state, you work out intensely, and then you have carbohydrates post-workout. And of those carbs, you can have a much higher quantity of them than normal, and in fact, quicker digesting, so junk food type carb is more desirable because of how rapidly it will refill your muscle glycogen stores and also help transport nutrients into your muscles, which I'll explain shortly. So this is similar to the targeted workout approach, which I have another video on, which you should absolutely check out after this one to give you an idea of all the easy carb manipulation techniques that you can use and that really only work if you're on this keto metabolism in the first place. So that video is very beneficial, but the primary distinction is that you're having carbs before a workout in the targeted workout variation, whereas with carb backloading, you're having the carbs after the workout. And because you're having them after the workout and after being in keto state all day, you have a much higher ceiling to actually eat carbs. And again, carbs that may be junk food, that may be quicker digesting, that realistically, if you had them before a workout, would be more problematic. They might raise your blood sugar too much. You might have a little bit of rebound hypoglycemia if you use them up too quickly. There is a plan and purpose behind every recommendation here with carb backloading, and the types of carbs you can eat and the quantities are really something that is only available for you if you're doing the carb backloading variation. So you can't take pieces of this and take it out and mess with it. It has to be the way that it is specified in this video, so pay attention. If you're truly intent on tweaking some of these techniques besides the way that I'm telling you in this video, I'd recommend that you buy the book Carb Backloading by John Keefer, as that's the Bible of carb backloading, and it explains all the different ways you can tweak this and manipulate it and why you might want to or not want to do that, because John Keefer is the godfather of carb backloading, and without his work, I wouldn't have been able to make this video and hammer home a lot of the key points here so that you can start experimenting with this. So let's get into the keto state and actually using carb backloading properly. So like I said, you're in a keto state, which you have to be in, and I'll explain more on this in a moment, and then you work out intensely, and then you have a bunch of carb. Now, this is beneficial, but you have to know what a keto state is. Now, what's a ketogenic state? That means you're not eating carbs. At least not carbs that will raise your blood sugar. So you can eat plenty of green fibrous vegetables, but you're not eating carbs that will raise your blood sugar. This is very important because most people are told that keto is a high-fat diet, that it's a low-protein diet. It's none of those things. It can be some of those things as a byproduct of cutting out carbs, but the most important thing is that you cut out carbs, and you only get them from green vegetables or other sources that are fibrous and not going to influence your blood sugar. So this also means a little practical pro tip here is don't jump into this and think, oh, I'll just have a little bit of oats, whatever, low carb day, under 50 grams or something, or any of these other quantitative marks that people throw out. This would be a mistake because, like I said, even a small bit of oats or a small bit of rice is going to kick you out of the ketogenic state, and it will hinder your entire adaptation phase of being in the keto state. So you need to be doing keto for a couple days before you enter ketosis, and after a few more weeks, you will enter the fat adapted keto state, which is very optimal. And this is ultimately where any carb inclusion techniques really gain their steam, okay? So another caveat I'll say is that on any of my videos, I'll always say, before you do any carb inclusion techniques, before you even think about them, make sure you are keto adapted so basically doing keto for at least a month, at the very least, okay? You'll start to lose desire for carbs after the third day of not eating them. And this is ultimately why it's dramatically easier to eat 20 carbs a day compared to 60 or 100. You might think that, oh, I get to eat more carbs though, so I'll be, more satisfied. This is wrong. When you cut them out completely, you will be far less hungry because your body gets the message of, okay, we're not dependent on these things anymore. We can start using our own fuel, fat. So how do you actually build muscle and burn fat at the same time from carb backloading and eating these carbs and possibly even junk food carbs after workouts? Well, keep in mind you're in the keto state. Your body is burning fat doubly effective. You can look this up too. There's great work by Dr. Jeff Follick on your body literally burns fat double as effectively when you're in a keto state, which is also so key and integral to why you have to be in keto state before you even consider this. So you're in the keto state, you're burning fat very effectively. This is coupled with low insulin levels, okay? Low insulin levels do have a lot of benefits associated with them, but when you're in the keto state and you're not eating carbs, which jack up your blood sugar and your blood insulin, your body is able to burn fat doubly as effective because its insulin is low. Insulin's an anabolic hormone, and it signals to your body that it's trying to build. So if you start off the day with a giant insulin spike, that's going to dictate the metabolic status of your day for the rest of the day. Essentially, you'll be telling your body, oh, we're not trying to break things down today. We're not trying to get rid of fat. We're trying to build. We're trying to add on, right? Which will then make you hungrier later in the day because your body thinks it's trying to build. And it will also hinder fat oxidation. So basically, you don't want to start off the day with a giant insulin spike if you're trying to cut, which is another reason why intermittent fasting is popping off, which is why fat fasting, which I have a video on, is also a very effective technique. But essentially, if you're in a keto state, you're burning fat better, and you're also in a low insulin state. Side note, even if you're not keto adapted, you can be in a lower insulin state in the mornings by eating only fat and protein, which is actually a recommendation from John Kiefer, who wrote the Carb Backloading book. But he acknowledges that being in this keto metabolism is absolutely going to amplify your results and how easy this is and how effortless this is if you're willing to put up with the first month of adaptation, which will be easy after day 3. So you're in the low insulin state. And what's going to happen is you training intensely in that low insulin state, which you don't have to worry about because the body's able to maintain blood sugar. And if you are keto adapted, training is something your body will be used to, right? The first day or two of low carb, you might feel a little bit lower blood sugar, but this is why you have to be adapted, because after a couple days, your body's going to get used to it. So you're able to train intensely, and then from there, your body primes its glucose transporters to absorb insulin when you train intensely from this keto state or this low insulin state. What does that mean? That means that when you're in this low insulin state, which we already know that's what keto state will put you in, it'll lower your insulin levels. And then you train intensely, your body is aware of the fact that it is not in the presence of insulin, okay? Or at least exorbitant amounts of insulin, because protein can spike insulin a little bit, and also fat slowly. So it realizes there's not a lot of insulin here. So it starts preemptively preparing to absorb insulin with the utmost effectiveness. And then after, if you slam a bunch of quick digesting carbs, right? You can still have regular digesting carbs like rice, but normally you can't get away with having such a quick digesting carb like junk food and not spill over and gain fat. But because you've not only depleted your glycogen stores, which need to be replenished, but you've also put your body in that low insulin state and then gave it a lot of intensity through training, it's now preparing, hey, we don't have a lot of insulin available here. Whenever we get some, we're going to use it the best of the best. And that's exactly what your body does. But that's only the muscle building side of things. So what that's actually called, and the mechanism at play there, is called insulin-independent glucose transporter translocation. So that's a lot to take in. But basically, what all I just explained there, that whole timeline, is insulin shuttles nutrients into your muscles. But technically, glucose transporters are the thing that are actually doing the work. Insulin is an anabolic hormone, and it rises when you eat carbs and when you eat massive amounts of protein or certain types of protein. And when you eat, it flushes nutrients into your muscles, and it also will lower your blood sugar, because if your blood sugar went too high, you would die. And that's essentially the fundamental problem for type 1 diabetics, because they can't produce insulin, or at least they have a diminished capability to do so. And it's not diet related. So when you have that massive insulin response and insulin is surging in a very volatile manner from what your baseline was, these glucose transporters, which are in your cell, they'll start moving towards the edge of your cell, anticipating insulin to come in. So essentially, the next time you eat, you're going to better use that insulin. So it's basically like the receivers are getting into a better position for the thrower, insulin, the messenger, the carrier of these nutrients. So amino acids, creatine, right? Also glucose being the carbs, the blood source of sugar. So your receivers, these glucose transporters, are getting ready to receive the insulin, to take in the insulin better. And the best part of all this is that the glucose transporters in your muscles that you just trained are going to be taking up and soaking up more of that insulin, instead of that insulin going to other places like your fat or being stored other places. So if you hadn't have trained and then had a crap load of carbs, yeah, of course your blood sugar is going to go up, and it's not going to go into your muscles because you didn't train anything. Maybe some of it will go into your muscles. The point is, you're doing a twofold technique here. You're putting the insulin into your muscles and everything that the insulin's carrying, because these receivers, these glucose transporters, are getting ready to catch all the insulin and bring it in to the cell. And by doing this and putting more of a focus onto your muscle building, it prevents that insulin from going to other places you don't want it to, like being stored as fat. So this doesn't mean you have a heightened insulin sensitivity. It simply means that a certain area is going to be more effective at taking in insulin, or using it better, because technically that would be a tissue that is more insulin sensitive. So you're going to be taking in that glucose, that amino acids, all the creatine, everything that the insulin's carrying through these receivers, which are now primed and ready, and that will leave out the possibility of those insulin surges going elsewhere. So that is called insulin-independent glucose transporter translocation, and it can only be achieved from training in the low insulin state. And if you're training in the low insulin state, that will be much easier to do if you're in a keto metabolism. You'll be burning more fat if you're in a keto metabolism. And also, another note is that your body, in the morning, when it is in a low insulin state, it has a much lower likelihood to break down its own muscle tissue if there is no insulin present. So, that insulin state, if you are in a keto metabolism and you skip breakfast and you do a lot of stressful activity, your cortisol is going to go up. In fact, waking up is going to jack up your cortisol. Cortisol is a catabolic hormone. It breaks tissues down so you can use it as emergency fuel. If you have a low insulin level, cortisol is not going to break down your muscle tissue. Cortisol will only break down your muscle tissue, so being stressed in the morning will only break down muscle tissue if you have insulin present. If you start off the day with, a bagel in the morning, right? Which can still raise that insulin level. And then if you're stressed out, you take, a lot of other engaging activities that get you focused and just keep your cortisol steady. That is going to be more risky inherently for breaking down muscle tissue, which is another added benefit to being in the keto state. But at the same time, it's amplifying the amount of fat burn you'll receive when you're in a low insulin training state. So as long as you're eating keto foods in the morning, or fasting, or doing anything that won't kick you out of that low insulin state, you are going to be burning more fat, in addition to the fact that you're already in a fat metabolism because your body's better at using fat. And then also, you're then priming your body to uptake anabolic hormone and use it effectively. So that is essentially the gist of how this all works, okay? And that was very exhaustive, but let me explain to you the types of carbs to use and how to actually implement this, because this is very important. This is the practicality. That was just the explanation. So, types of carbs. Faster digesting is better. This could mean that junk food is better, and the ceiling for eating junk food is a lot higher because your body can store about 2,000 calories worth of carb, some in your liver, some in your muscle stores, depending on how big you are. But it's very difficult to eat more than 2,000 calories. Even if you do eat more than 2,000 calories worth of carb, you have to realize you just depleted everything. So unless you ate like 6,000 calories worth of carb, which, by the way, you're speeding up your metabolism and putting more stress on your metabolism by training, like good stress, eustress, by training in the low insulin state. So you're burning more and you have to replenish more. You have a much higher ceiling for replenishing glycogen stores before you spill over and burn fat, store fat. My mistake, you'll be burning fat all throughout the morning. So you are going to be creating a much higher ceiling for intaking carbs, particularly of the fast digesting junk food kind. Now you can use, regular carbs like a bowl of pasta. You can use regular starches like a burrito, whatever, right? Of course, this effect is amplified by quick digesting carbs, of course with protein, not necessarily in the absence of fat, but primarily focusing on the carbs and the protein, okay? You're going to be eating that in the meals afterwards. And if you use other tweaks, like example, hydrolyzed protein has a very quick and jacked up insulin response. And if you eat any other foods with a hydrolyzed protein, this is going to amplify the insulinotropic effect of the other foods. So essentially, that would be the best way to go about, actually eating after a carb backloading session, a training session. You eat hydrolyzed protein if you're truly like taking this super seriously, and then you have your carbs of choice, right? You don't necessarily need to count because it'd be very hard to spill over from, just the other foods you've been eating in the daytime. There are other ways to manage this and to curtail this and to keep track of your daily intake and macros. My main recommendation is keep it low carb in the morning, fat and protein only, or fast. And you could also fat fast, which is another useful technique. And then train hard. And then if you're going to have carbs that particular day, you don't have to be restrictive in any sort of way. Now, I do recommend avoiding junk, like not junk carbs, because, you could have all the chocolate in the world if it's from Lindt chocolate or like very high quality. But if you're having chocolate that has a bunch of other oxidized fats in there, vegetable oils, processed heated oils that are more closer to lab chemicals than actual food, you will actually feel like crap. And it's not because of the sugar. Meanwhile, you could have a pure Belgian chocolate bar and eat more junk and more sugar and not necessarily experience any problems. So avoid things like that. Avoid chemically processed food that isn't, real food. You could have chips, for example, if you're able to digest the grains in them, but make sure there's no MSG or any other, aspartames or other fillers in there which will mess with your reward system, okay? MSG is an excitatory neurotoxin. It makes you think food tastes better than it does, and it'll keep you snacking, okay? So eat real food and prioritize food quality. This is something I always like to preach on my page. But the case example here is you could eat, an entire Belgian chocolate bar if you want, a huge thing, as long as it's real chocolate, milk, cocoa, whatever, right? That's the main ingredient for chocolate. But don't have the processed stuff with like canola oil and sunflower oil and all that other stuff in there, because that is going to make you feel bad, and it's not going to be the carbs' fault. I'm a person who loves ketogenic dieting and doesn't believe that we should be having carbs in exorbitant amounts. But if you're going to have them, have it right and have it in a way that isn't going to stress your body out. So that is essentially the gist here, okay? So those are some carb types that are better, but now there's some other caveats to this. Quick digesting carbs. So if you watch my targeted keto video, you'll know that I said glucose and dextrose are the optimal forms of carb use that you want to intake in a targeted plan. Why is this? Well, they are faster absorbing, but they'll go right into your bloodstream and they'll refill muscle glycogen stores right away. This is ultimately what you want. You don't want to be having fructose, okay? So what is fructose or sucrose? Fructose and sucrose contain fruit sugar, which is fructose. And this is why it's called fructose, because fruit is in the name, basically. Fruit sugar gets digested into your liver, and it fills up your liver glycogen. Your liver glycogen is your backup team. It is the reserve squad. Your body, in order to start storing fat, will normally fill up muscles and then fill up the liver and then start storing fat, because your body can't store too much carb. And after a certain point, if it can't use it, it's going to store it. Your body always wants to use carb first. So that's essentially what it's going to do, and you want to give it the types of carbs which are not going to make your body put them on the backup team, on the bench. You want all those carbs to go right into your muscles. And large amounts of fructose, large amounts of fruit smoothies, those types of things are honestly more detrimental to people's health than a Snickers bar every day. But at the same time, it's going to be dramatically problematic for any sort of carb manipulation techniques. Of course, there are, practical ways that if you're doing this for lifestyle, have an apple if you want, whatever. But I do not recommend it for performance-related carb backloading or targeted ketogenic dieting altogether. And plus, there are funner carbs to have. If you're going to have a carb-on-carb backloading day, you can have near unlimited amounts. Targeted keto days, you have a much more strict quantity amount. And in that case, fructose is going to go to your liver. It's not going to be used up in the workout. In carb backloading's case, fructose is going to go to your liver, and it's going to bypass going into your muscles, which is where you want it to go. So fructose is less optimal, and I generally don't recommend it. And also, it also can kind of mess with your reward system as well, because a lot of processed foods will use fructose and high fructose corn syrup because it is the sweetest of all sugars and it has the highest reward response. So when you have a can of Coca-Cola, it's going to not only jack up your liver because that's where all the fructose is going, it's also going to jack up your blood sugar and really not be of use to you because it's not going to your muscles, or at least most of it isn't. So avoid fructose. The more optimal types are glucose and dextrose. You can look up glycemic index of certain carbs. This just means how quickly a carb is digesting. And like I said, the quicker digesting is more optimal, but the strict authorities on this, like John Kiefer, will say, stick to the higher, quick speed digesting carbs. In my experience, as long as I have, if I have a carb backloading day where I go at it in the gym intense, and then I have carbs, if I want to have like a bowl of pasta or two or something as my meal, sure, that's great. But example, pasta is not the fastest digesting carb, but I still notice the effects are very efficient. And, of course, the best of the best way to do this would be with the quick digesting sugars, but you don't necessarily need that. The very practical and lifestyle application of this, which is ultimately what this video is about. So listen closely, because this is what I want this video to do. This video and the carb backloading techniques are truly the most effortless techniques to use for balancing a lifestyle that allows you to be consistently building muscle, staying lean, perhaps losing muscle, or it's not losing muscle, burning fat, building muscle, staying lean no matter what. And essentially, carb backloading is the key to this if you can wrap your head around what to do and what not to do. Once you know, okay, you know what, I'm not going to be competing in a physique show. If you're the type of person who's not competing in a physique show, you don't have to be a mad scientist about this. But if you're the type of person who's just trying to be in shape and you want to look good, what you can do is simply handle the day, learn keto, do it for a couple months. And then from there, to balance your lifestyle, you can start saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to go out at the gym tomorrow, and then for Susie's birthday, we're going to go to sushi and just crush it. That's the practical application of this, right? Even though quicker digesting carb is better than, white rice that would be on sushi, this is the lifestyle this allows you to do. It allows you to achieve progressive muscle gain, steady fat loss, in addition to simply maintaining a lean physique. And it's because of these benefits with training in a low insulin state, where your body's already better at using fat, than using all that extra stress and training stress and cortisol to boost the fat burning properties of epinephrine and also of cortisol. And then that's also simultaneously priming your body to be much more efficient with its anabolic replenishing, which conveniently is in the evening. Now, you also might have some other preconceived notions about, oh, you shouldn't have carbs in the nighttime, etc., etc. Listen, those are myths, and they take even longer to explain in other videos. So watch my other videos. Go to my videos on targeted keto as well, because that will give you more of a understanding of how these other carb techniques implicate your physique and also how you feel. Watch my other keto videos, because keto is not this obscure thing. It is simply a normal metabolic state where there are various benefits when your body is running on fat. So this is the lifestyle implication, and I'm going to put out vlogs and other live, applications of these techniques, because it is something I use effortlessly almost every week. Well, not every week, but every month I do. If there's a time where I'm in the physique I want and I'm not trying to aggressively pursue fat loss, guess what? You'll still get it, and you'll be able to balance a lifestyle where, you fast in the morning, you get into that routine, you quit that sugar dependence, and then you can still have foods you love, but you're not craving them because you're maintaining that keto metabolism. That is the ultimate application. The ultimate application is you go to the beach with your friends, you come back, you're running around doing all these beach activities. Maybe you take a little rest, but then you go do some sports or whatever, swim, and then at the end of the day, you come back and, even though it has to be an intense workout, there's no way around that. You can't just do a light moseying along workout. It has to be intense, right? You play a soccer game or something, or a hockey game, and then you go and you smash a bunch of, sushi dinner, right? That is essentially the best and most practical way to use this. Of course, there are ways to be a mad scientist about it and optimize every area of your performance and your athleticism, but the most practical way is you learn keto and you put up with that for 1 or 2 months of your life. Well, not that there's anything to put up with, because I think it's fantastic, but you do that and you have the boldness to pull that off in the beginning, and then from there, keto is now your baseline, and you can have carbs at any point down the line. God bless you, Mom. and and then from there, your cravings and appetite for carb are down on a grand scheme anyways. You're no longer craving them. You're no longer dependent on sugar. I can only explain the benefits of this so much before it sounds too good to be true, but you really have to experience this. And anybody who's done this or has experienced even just keto metabolism, please explain how you feel in the comments so that other people can see this video and realize, holy shit, this is not a joke. This is real. You can burn fat, build muscle at the same time, and you can do it by eating junk food. All you have to do is simply get in the keto state, train in it, right? And get your body used to that. And then from there, if you want to eat unlimited amounts of junk food at the nighttime, you absolutely can achieve those results on your physique. Last thing I'll say too is watch my video on Golden Era Bookworm's channel. Hopefully it's out by the time this one's out, because we talk about the simultaneous muscle building and fat burning properties of Vince Gironda's steak and eggs diet. Now, in that video, I actually explain similar mechanisms from this one with a lot more visual, a lot more science documentation, okay? So essentially you have a lot more research papers backing that up and slightly more technical explanation of the same mechanisms you learned about in this video. So that is essentially the video I want you to go to next, because even it might not even be out by the time of this one, but if you're watching this anytime a couple days after I posted this, go to Golden Era Bookworm's channel and look for that video. Vince Gironda, Golden Era Bookworm, steak and eggs, muscle building, fat burn, Romano. Type in any of those keywords, okay? Watch that video because it will explain this in even more depth and probably slightly less confusing manner. Thank you for watching. Make sure you go to my Instagram. Follow my Instagram so you can keep up with updates with all that I'm doing, if I'm doing live streams or anything. Subscribe to this page, right? Like the video. Do that right now and go watch my other videos. This is something that you can dramatically use to have a crazy lifestyle balance. And watch more of my videos. It will explain even more. Thank you. Anthony Romano. Peace.